What just happened with Toyota marks a turning point in the economic relationship between the United States and Canada. While Washington was still celebrating the success of its industrial policies, the Japanese giant made a move that caught the White House off guard and shook market confidence, investing in Canada instead of American soil. This isn't just a corporate relocation. It's a clear signal that Donald Trump's economic model is starting to generate more uncertainty than stability. Even those closely following the auto industry were surprised. Toyota, one of the largest manufacturers in the world, chose Canada as the strategic hub for expanding its electric battery production. This move is being seen as a vote of confidence in Canada's regulatory and political stability, and a warning about the direction of U.S. trade policies. With tariffs and protectionist measures, the Trump administration is reshaping the global investment landscape, and not in its favor. For years, Washington positioned itself as the natural home of industrial innovation. But things have changed. Today, the promise of protecting American jobs faces a difficult reality. The very policies intended to boost manufacturing are pushing companies away. The 25% tariffs on imported vehicles and components, mixed with contradictory environmental regulations and diplomatic tensions with key allies, have turned the business environment into risky terrain. In this context, Canada emerges as the big winner. With stable policies, long-term incentive contracts, and a clean, low-cost energy grid, Ottawa is becoming the new magnet for the auto industry. While the United States puts up walls, Canada builds pathways. While Washington gets tangled in domestic political disputes, Canada offers predictability. And while Trump promises an industrial revival, capital is moving in the opposite direction. Toyota's decision is not impulsive. It's the result of a deep risk-benefit analysis. In recent months, the U.S. environment has become unpredictable. Companies fear that any political shift could suddenly rewrite the rules. That lack of long-term visibility is pushing investors toward a country that, without loud speeches, is offering exactly what they need: legal certainty, consistent incentives, and regulatory stability that doesn't change with every election cycle. For Trump, the news is a symbolic defeat. His administration made protectionism a central pillar, promising to bring manufacturing back and reduce foreign dependency. But the numbers tell a different story. Imports from Asia keep growing, factories are facing higher costs, and manufacturing job growth is slowing. The policy that was supposed to revitalize the industry is producing the opposite effect: a quiet investment exodus toward more stable territories. Toyota is not an isolated case. In recent months, companies like Hyundai, Ford, and Mercedes have started talks with Canadian authorities to open new plants or relocate part of their operations. Ontario and Quebec are becoming the heart of North American electromobility. Every investment announcement in those provinces means thousands of jobs that are no longer being created in the United States, but across the border. The contrast is striking. Ottawa is executing a long-term industrial strategy, while Washington improvises short-term reactions. The American labor market is starting to feel the pressure. Labor unions, which initially supported Trump's tariffs, are now watching with concern as the promised jobs fail to appear. Companies are not expanding domestically, they're looking for safer options abroad. In the industrial belt states, frustration is growing. And while the White House blames corporations, the truth is that it's the government's own rules that are pushing them away. Canada, meanwhile, has done its homework. In recent years, it has built a modern industrial policy combining clean energy, tax incentives, and regulatory stability. The country isn't competing with nationalist rhetoric, it's competing with results. Environmental permits get approved in half the time it takes in the United States. Investment contracts guarantee clear conditions for 20 years. And the power grid, fueled by hydro and nuclear sources, delivers consistent energy at predictable prices. For companies building the electric vehicle future, That kind of stability is worth gold. On this new board, Toyota's move carries deep geopolitical implications. For decades, the United States was the epicenter of North American auto production. Now that leadership is shifting north. Supply chains, lithium contracts, assembly plants, and logistics hubs are following the same path. This isn't a sudden flight, it's a structural shift reflecting a global trend. Companies want governments that don't rewrite the rules every year. The message from multinational corporations is clear. Protectionism no longer protects. In an interconnected world, closing economic borders only creates instability. Every new tariff, every sanction, every threat of retaliation damages market confidence. And when that confidence disappears, companies don't argue, they leave. Toyota just proved it with a move that could reshape the entire region. Inside the United States, reactions have been swift. Governors, senators, and union leaders criticized Toyota's decision and demanded a review of current trade policies. But companies don't answer to politics, they respond to market logic. And today, that logic says producing in Canada is more profitable, more stable, and more sustainable than doing it in the United States. Trump insists his strategy is protecting the national economy, but foreign direct investment figures show the opposite. The downward trend has been accelerating for 3 straight quarters. As capital flows north, a concern is growing in Washington: the loss of technological leadership. The country that led the automotive revolution now risks falling behind in the race for electric vehicles. Without stable access to critical minerals and a reliable incentive framework, American firms are losing ground to global rivals. In a world increasingly dominated by technology and clean energy, that loss translates directly into a loss of power. Canada, on the other hand, has understood the historical moment. Its government doesn't want conflict with the United States, but it's ready to capitalize on its mistakes. Quietly, Ottawa is building partnerships with lithium producers in South America, European part suppliers, and new Asian tech firms. All of it is aimed at one clear goal: becoming North America's leading battery production hub. An ambitious plan that's already bearing fruit and built on one simple truth: stability attracts capital. The irony is that while the United States tries to revive jobs of the past, Canada is creating those of the future. The U.S. model remains anchored in a 20th-century industrial vision focused on factories and heavy metals. The Canadian model bets on innovation, green energy, and tech diversification. In that contrast lies the economic future of the continent. For the White House, this is a political and symbolic challenge. Trump rose to power promising a stronger, made in America. But what we're seeing is an increasingly competitive, made in Canada. The rhetoric of national greatness clashes with the reality of global markets. Because in today's economy, patriotism doesn't pay the bills, efficiency does. The situation also creates a strategic dilemma for American businesses. If the government keeps pressuring imports and trade partners, many companies will have no choice but to seek shelter in more predictable allied countries. And that impacts more than just jobs or production. It affects geopolitical influence. Industrial power is also political power. If Canada solidifies its role as the electromobility center, the United States will lose part of its global leverage. The social impact of this shift could be felt soon. Less investment means fewer jobs. Fewer jobs, lower consumption. And lower consumption leads to slower growth. The risk of this domino effect triggering social unrest is real. In several industrial cities, unions are already warning about plant closures and shift reductions. Communities that bet on an industrial comeback are now facing a new wave of layoffs. In Canada, the opposite is happening. Optimism is growing. Universities are getting funds for clean energy and engineering programs. Local governments are preparing to absorb thousands of new workers. and mining regions are experiencing a new boom in critical minerals. Everything points to this decade cementing Canada's role as a central player in the green economy. What's happening with Toyota is more than a business story. It's a warning to the United States. Protectionist policies may be popular, but they carry consequences. And when those consequences hit industrial giants, the effects multiply. The country that once symbolized innovation and manufacturing power now faces an unexpected challenge, competing with its northern neighbor for the investments it once attracted without effort. The North American Economic Board is changing, and the game is no longer played only in Washington. Decisions are also being made in Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. And every step Canada takes toward stability is a silent blow to the United States' credibility as a business destination. In this new context, Trump's promises to bring back jobs sound more like nostalgia than strategy. The continent's industrial future will depend on who best understands the balance between sovereignty and openness. The United States can keep raising barriers. But while it does, its allies are building bridges. And those bridges are drawing in the giants of global industry. Toyota is just the beginning. Many more will follow. The question is inevitable. How long will it take Washington to realize that the world no longer works under the old rules? How long can it sustain a policy that scares businesses instead of attracting them? If the trend continues, the United States could end up watching its industrial leadership fade, not from lack of ability, but from political arrogance. Because in the end, the economy doesn't respond to speeches. It responds to trust. And today, that trust is moving north. Canada is winning the game without confrontation, just by offering what the United States has stopped guaranteeing: stability, certainty, and vision for the future. Like this video and subscribe to Critical Point to understand how power decisions are reshaping the future of the world.